Well, thanks, Kelly. And it's my pleasure to be here. Now, for those of you who have been regular viewers of some of the past projects that have been done, you will realize that I am not who you're used to seeing. No, I am not Megan, obviously. I'm taller, but there's other differences as well. Unfortunately, Megan on short notice was not able to be with us today. So I have stepped in to do a project for you. My name is Jimmy Lamb. I am manager of education at Sawgrass. So I know a thing or two about sublimation. So it's going to be a little bit different than what was advertised. And I hope that's okay, because the reality is I just didn't have the resources and the plan set up for what Megan was planning to do. So I'm going to be just a little bit different than what she was going to do. So with that said, let's get started. Now, one of the things for any of you that are new with your sublimation system that you got from Michael's, the Sawgrass system, is that with sublimation only bonds to polymers or polyesters, okay? Your system came with the EasySubli Ink system, which means that you can print onto vinyl, and then you can actually trim the vinyl and then apply it with heat to all kinds of different surfaces. And that's a lot of what Megan covers in her projects. Now, you can also sublimate directly to products that have a polymer coating or made of polyester. So I'm actually going to do that today. Okay, instead of doing the vinyl, we're going to direct sub onto a coffee mug that I got from Michael's, and we're going to create an image and put it on here and go through all the steps so that you can see how we can do a product with direct sublimation. That's the beauty of the system that you bought, is that you have so many different options of how to sublimate, and then of course, what you can sublimate. Now, over on my table here, one of the things I want you to see was, since we're doing a coffee mug, we're going to use a mug press. So this is a heat press designed specifically for mugs. The one that we're going to use, the smaller unit right here, is one that's available at Michael's. Now, next to it, you'll see there's this big, giant, industrial looking thing. This is typically the type of mug press that sublimators have used over the years. And for a lot of you, you're looking at it and saying, gee, that's bigger than my printer, okay? Does take up a lot of room. It's a good unit, don't get me wrong, but it is kind of big and bulky. So I'm just going to slide it aside so we can focus on this nice, small, compact unit, okay? All right, so for the mug today, I want to create something that has to do with fall, and a lot of fall is associated with pumpkins, okay? So we're going to create a design, and today we're going to be creating the design through the Creative Studio software that comes with your printer when you purchase the printer. That software is an online-based program, so you would simply go to the Sawgrass website to access it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off at Sawgrass Ink, Sawgrass Ink, INK.com. All right. And once I'm on the website, I'm going to click on Creative Studio. And I already have a registration. So all I got to do is click sign in. And then we're going to go to start creating. Now, this happens to be an 11-ounce ceramic coffee mug, and it does have a polymer coating. Now, if you were to look at this, can you see the polymer coating? Nope, you can't do it. Can you feel it? No, you cannot. It looks and feels like a regular coffee mug, but it does have a polymer coating, and that's what's required for the sublimation to permanently bond to the surface of the product. In fact, it bonds at a subsurface level, actually a molecular level. But now that's getting too scientific. You don't need to worry about that. All you need to do is just create, print, and press, as what we're going to do here. So I'm going to start out by choosing the product that I want to work on. So I'm going to go to drinkware, and then under drinkware, I will make a selection, which will be the 11-ounce Polysub mug. So on the screen, what you'll see is my mug, and it has a rectangular work area where I can create my design. Now, I am going to use a design that Megan did. And Megan was very creative. She went and picked out some different elements and combined them together for the final design. So one of the pieces of that is going to be found under designs. And when you go in to start searching designs, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. You can go through all the different folders. And I would encourage you, I know it takes a little bit of time, but go through the folders. as you get used to what we have and you get a chance to look at it, you start getting really creative ideas up here. And later on, maybe you're going to go back and choose one of those designs for a future project, if not the one you're working on right now. We do have favorite, so you can click on it, the little heart, and it goes into your favorites folder, which can save you a lot of time when you find stuff that you really like. And so rather than me just scrolling through them all, I'm going to go right to my favorites and look, I saved a couple of things. Okay, so when I was looking around earlier in the day, I found what I wanted to use as the background for the image I'm creating. Now, this particular background is not meant to cover the whole mug. Okay, I'm just doing one area of the mug, really just one side. So instead of leaving it in the middle, I'm just going to click on it and drag it over towards one side. And I want to make it a little bit smaller because I actually want to see white area above it and below it. Now, if you wanted to, and you wanted to make this a complete background for the whole mug, you can just click and drag and actually fill up the whole mug, see? But that's not what I want to do here. So I'm going to shrink it back down and place it right about there, okay? So it's a very interesting background, and you'll be able to see it clearly once we print it out. Now, the second part is we need something to go with that. It's a little bit boring, okay? So why don't we find something interesting? We could go ahead and put our own text on there if we wanted. We could upload a photo of something and put it on there if we wanted. But another thing that we have, because we have a lot of designs, is down under elements, you can go through and let me show you this folder because it's really neat. And I just discovered it myself. And you would think I know all the designs. It's called Quotes and Sayings. And so if you go into this folder, you'll see things that are laid out artistically that make good quotes. Instead of you having to create it from scratch, you're able to use a pre-formatted layout. And so in here, because we're interested in pumpkins being the fall, we'll look through. I could do a search on pumpkins. I'm just trying to give you an idea right here of just how many different things you might find in there. And you see pumpkins popping up a lot. And here's the one that I want right here. Now you can see that I did make it a favorite a little bit earlier so I could find it easier, but I'm going to go ahead and choose it. It automatically tried to center it on the screen, which is not where I want it. I need to have it on top of my background. So let me just stretch that out a little bit more. And there, I have it centered. Now, the next thing I'm thinking is I'm looking at the color of the text on that particular image. And it's black, we can read it very easily, but since we're talking about pumpkins, should we have it more of a pumpkin-y color? So while that is still selected, now, also I want to point out to you that this, though you see it as text, it's actually considered as a design, okay? So all the wording is locked in place, we can't change the wording, but we can change things like the color. So I'm going to go to fill color, and fill color is not going to fill that little square in. It's just going to fill in the inside color of the lettering that you see. And I'm going to start out in the families of orange and just start kind of working around with my color picker until I see something that looks kind of like it's a pumpkin color to me. So there, I have this image, and you can see it would print on one side of the mug, and that might be all you want to do. But there's also a lot of white space over here. And when you're doing mugs, a lot of times we do personalize them. For example, we may put someone's name in there, or we could upload a picture. As simple as this. I think I have a few pictures in my galleries file, and I do. Oh, look, I could put me, but I'm not. This one's a really interesting. I like this one with the two little girls. So if I click on them, it's actually going to bring them over to the mug area, and we could drop them into that white space to help fill that white space in. So maybe you're making a mug for a mom, and these are her two daughters, or maybe you're making a mug for, you know, grandma, and these are two of the grandchildren. So either way, just waiting for that to move over and appear there. My internet in here is kind of slow. But either way, you're able to put in images that way. And this is also where you can upload the images. So if you wanted to upload, you would see right here that it has a command for uploading images. And again, that's found in the galleries file. What? I did. I was trying something different. Sorry. I'm talking to my cameraman. So let's click that photo there. For some reason, it did not want to go over. Now it does. I don't know. One photo came over, the other one didn't want to. Now watch them all come over at once. So anyway, I have now put the little girls in. As you can see, I can leave them on there, or I can take them back off. I could just take that and go to the trash, which is delete. And another option is, because we do this a lot of times with mugs as well, is to simply duplicate what we've already created and then put that on the other side as well. So let me just recenter that. And I am going to use the duplicate. So if you see me move up the screen just a little bit there, duplicate. And what it's going to do is it's going to copy it, and then it's going to duplicate it. And it actually duplicated as two sections, the background and the lettering, which is fine by me because now I can position each one just where I want it. And so here, I've got that set up. And so now when I print this out and actually sublimate it, it's going to have the same thing on both sides of the mug. That's just my choice. Now, I know all of you are very creative, and you may find 100 better ways to do it than my way, okay? And that's fine. That's what's fun about this, is being able to have creative options to be able to create some really unique things. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and print this out so that we can get to the next phase of our process. So to do that, I will go up and click on print, and I will need to choose a few things. Like, for example, I need to choose the printer that I'm using. I have multiple printers, so I have to find the one which I'm tied into, which I just did. That is the right size paper. I want to choose the product as in regards to what it's made of. This is not metal at all. This is a ceramic mug, okay? These settings help tell the system how much ink is required for printing for being able to sublimate onto that type of surface. So it is important that you choose the right type of product in these lists. Color and quality, I'll do a high quality print. I don't need photographic mode. I'm going to use vivid. Vivid is what we use when it's just pure graphics, okay? Let's bring the graphics to life. Photographic is when we're doing pictures, obviously, okay? So if you have a picture and a graphic, you would want to determine which one was the most important and then make the setting based on that. Not huge difference, okay? But it does enhance a photograph if you choose photographic, or pure graphics if you choose the vivid. So just keep that part in mind. Once we've made these choices here, we'll hit print. And what's going to happen is it's going to start processing the image. It's going to process it in regards to what it's going to be printed out on. And then eventually that information is going to go right down my little cable over here to the printer. That can take a minute or so for it to go all the way to the printer. So just be patient with me while we do that. Now, while that's happening, I have my mug already here, and oh, that showed up pretty quick. So here, I'm just verifying the choices again: ceramic mug, high quality, the type of paper, TruePix Classic, which is the paper for sublimation that Michael sells. And we will make sure it's mirrored, and it always does that by default. So let's see. Layout, we're good there. And actually, let's just go with this one. There we go. I did a preserve layout from designer because what it's doing is pretty much saving exactly what I set up, okay? So that's why I set that up. And the final one is color, and I do have it in the vivid mode. So I'm good to go, okay? Now we'll do the print, and now it's going to make its way over to the printer. All right, so once it comes out of the printer, what we're going to do first is we'll trim the paper so that it fits onto the mug, because it needs to just be on the white area of the mug, and so that it'll fit into there. And then I'll create another sheet of paper that I'll cut out with scissors that we call blowout sheet, and that's to make sure that there's no stray ink that ends up in the wrong place when we're doing the heat press. So it's busily printing out right now, and will be ready for us any minute. I hear it working hard, so there we go. So out came the two sides for the mug. Let's just make sure that it's going to fit. Yes, it's definitely going to fit on the mug. So the next thing that I want to do with this sheet of paper is I want to get just rid of the excess white paper, because you can see how much larger it is than the actual mug itself. So we want to trim it down to where the paper is equivalent to the height pretty much of the mug itself. So I get my scissors out and I'm just going to lay the mug right here on the paper for a second just to get sort of a visual image of where I want to cut. And then I'm just going to go ahead and make my cuts. And then we can always trim it more if we need to. This is just going to make sure that it fits into the mug press. When the paper is too large, it won't fit into the mug press properly, and we'll have problems with that. So checking this out, and it's really kind of too long, but the height looks pretty darn good because it's about the same as the mug, as you can see. And then I'm going to trim off. You can see where it's longer on one side. We don't need all that extra white paper there. So I'm going to trim that off real quick, and then we'll apply it to the mug. Now, with the mug, the idea is, of course, to get it equal on each side. So when we start putting the paper on here, we're pretty much centering it around the handle. Now, you can't really see it, but I can look down the sides here, and I can see where the edge of the ink is in regards to the edge of the paper. So I'm now looking at the mug from the top, and I'm rotating the paper until it looks like that the images are lined up the way we want them to. Now what I'm going to use is heat tape. Now heat tape looks kind of like Scotch tape. Never confuse the two, because the Scotch tape will melt when we sublimate. This will not. Remember, sublimation is typically up around 400 degrees for most things, at least when we're doing direct sub. So we want to make sure that our tape can withstand it. All right, so I've got the image taped on, as you can see. The next is what we refer to, it's just sort of a slang term, as a blowout sheet. And the idea is just, again, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure that when it's pressing, we don't end up with any stray ink in the wrong place. Now, in the science of sublimation, when we go to the heat press and we apply temperature and pressure to our image, the ink that's in that paper turns into a gas. And then at the same time, the molecules that make up the polymers that's coating the mug, they open up, and I always say kind of like a clamshell, and they allow that gas to penetrate inside. And then when it cools off, they close back up and they lock the sublimation inside. And what that means is the sublimation is virtually indestructible, okay? But because it turns into a gas, sometimes, you know, some of it comes up off and away from the paper, and then it gets onto places on the heat press and leaves an image in the heat press, which we don't want. So I'm also trimming this one down just a little bit. And now everything should fit just right. So you can see that I'm just holding, I'm not taping, I'm just holding the blowout sheet onto the mug. The actual design paper is what's taped. Now, this is a really nifty heat press. All we have to do is slide this down in here with the handle in this particular slot, okay? And it's on. I've had it warming up. The green light tells me it's, you know, heated up. And all I got to do is now close it, and then it's just going to sort of count down. Now, this typically takes a few minutes. And the reason that it takes a few minutes, because if you use EasySub, you know how fast you can sublimate under the heat press with it. But we're talking about ceramics here. And ceramics are such that they're very slow to heat up, okay? I call them a heat sink, which means they're sucking in as much heat as they can, but it's a slow process to get ceramic fully heated at the same temperature throughout the product. Now, by the same token, it takes a long time for the heat to bleed out. That's why they make great coffee mugs, because once it gets hot from that initial coffee pour, it holds the heat in for a long period of time. So you're going to see it's going to take a few minutes in this heat press before the sublimation is complete. So we're just going to be patient while it goes through that particular process. When you look at some of the other things we sublimate, like metal, metal heats up just like that, okay? Metal typically is thin, and the way that it absorbs the heat, it just completely absorbs it in within seconds. And so metal objects, we typically do a lot less time than something like the ceramic objects, okay? So while that's doing its thing, I'm just going to tidy up real quick, get some of this trash out of the way. And let's see. Just looking at who's on our chat, and Ms. Kelly's running in the background there, providing you lots of good information. So this thing is slowly, it's got a series of little LEDs. I don't think you can see them. And there's like 5 of them. And as it's heating, each successive one lights up to give you an idea of how far along the process we are. And right now we're on LED number 2 of 5. So we still have a little ways to go to get this to happen. There we go. Now we're on LED 3. So we're slowly getting there. We're slowly counting down. Now you saw the image that I'm creating. You can see it on the mug. The original project that Megan was going to do for you is this right here. Now this is something that she had done and had on her desk. So I was able to grab it. But unfortunately, I didn't have the resources to be able to do it for you. My apologies. But it's the same design, but done much larger. And it's done on this wooden frame, which is freestanding, which is available at Michael's. So that is done with the EasySubli. So it actually does have the heat transfer vinyl background, which is just amazing because when you look at that, you really can't tell that it's vinyl back there, only when you touch it. And even when you touch it, it has the same feeling as this wood. This wood is rough and it's painted, you know, to make it feel kind of rough on purpose and to give it that rustic look, right? Well, this whole thing here feels just like the rest of the wood. So it came out really, really well. And sorry that I wasn't able to have the time to put all of that together today. So we're just going to continue on with my coffee mug here. Still on LED number 3, but we're getting there, okay? Slowly getting there. Now we have, I believe as Kelly said, all of these have been recorded that have been done in the past and are available on the Michael's website. So you can go back and check out all the different projects that Megan's done. She's done some really neat things. Megan is very creative, always has been, and really puts things together. In fact, we've done challenges together. I do a lot of lives to a different audience, and a lot of times she and I are there together. And so we're always challenging each other, or we have our audience challenging us, you know, as to who can make the best design. Usually that means I have to do something like accidentally spill something on hers before it's completed so that mine looks better, okay? Because she does seem to do a better job with that. I know how to use the system, but when it comes to the creativity, I may not be quite there. I'm one of those who can see cool things, but can't make them come out of my head. I don't know if you're like that or not, but I will say in experimenting with Creative Studio, and I said it earlier on, knowing the designs that are in there, and no way that you're going to remember every design that's in there. So many different designs, okay? But by knowing on the designs, being familiar with the designs, that helps you become more of an artist because someone else has put together the legwork and you're just putting the pieces together. That's really what we do in Creative Studio, is just put the pieces together that someone else has probably drawn. We also add in new artists every month. We've been going and working with professional artists to get their design images in so that we can give you something different than what you find in some of the other places online, okay? So we've been building those collections, and I encourage you to look at them if you haven't looked at them recently. Every month we add new designs in, so it's constantly growing. So there's a lot there that can help you with your creativity. Okay, I got down to the last LED is blinking, so we're almost ready to get this mug out. And you'll hear a beep here in just a second when it's ready, and out it will come, and we'll take a look at what I've done. Now, I have a reputation of doing things like breaking stuff, so I'll try not to break anything here. Megan loves to point those things out. So very simple, you just lift here to open it. Now, you see me reaching for the handle, and you might be thinking, hey, isn't that a hot mug? Well, yes, it is. In this case, the mug's about 400 degrees. But the handle itself, because it's not directly in contact with the heating surfaces, is not heating up at the same rate as everything else. So the handle is a little bit warm, but I can actually pick it up by hand. Now, what you saw fall off was the blowout sheet. Remember, that was just a sheet I put on there. I did not tape it on there. So that's fine for it to fall off as I pulled this out. So now what I'm going to do is start taking off the paper. This part is hot, by the way, but we do want to get the paper off as quick as we can. And there we go. So we have our Love You More Than Pumpkin Spice. As I said before, you can create this any way you wish. You can add other things to it, like names and photos and that type of thing. So there's a lot that you can do with the creativity of this particular mug. So it's just a matter of putting together the different items and putting it together and making it happen. So anyway, the rest of the mug is very hot. I'm going to put it somewhere safe so that I don't run into it. So I'll put it over there because otherwise I'd be doing something like stepping on it and melting my shoe. So, okay. So that's our mug. That was pretty easy to do. Any one of you could do it. And it just shows what we can do with direct sublimation. I'm going to take, for example, a cooled off mug. So give me 1 second. I'm going to step off screen. And the only reason I'm not using that one is actually, here's one I did previously of that, is because it's super hot. Okay. So here's one I did previously. I was experimenting with the size of the logo, but I want you to see this. I don't have a lot of fingernails, but you see my nails, they do not damage that at all. Okay. You see this? I'm doing it with the edge of the scissors. That does not damage it at all. This is what happens when we actually are sublimating directly to a polymer coated product. Unless you dig hard enough to get the polymers off, you don't damage these things, so they last. Oh, by the way, they do work in the dishwasher. I get asked that all the time. With the heat of the dishwasher, is that going to make the image fade? No, it will not. Not unless you have a dishwasher at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And I don't think any of us have that in our house. So we should be good, okay? Okay, so I got a question here from Nicole. Where did you find the image and what mug press are you using? This is a mug press available from Michaels. You can find it there in the store. It just came out, I believe, didn't it come out fairly recently, Alex? Anyway, you should be able to find it there. Kelly can probably give you more information on that. As far as the images were here in Creative Studio. Initially, I just went and did some searching. The background was found under, not backgrounds, it was actually found in designs. And if we go back and we search in designs, I'll show you exactly where in designs I found it. If we search the folders in the designs section of Creative Studio, we will find okay. Okay. My computer was pausing there just for a minute. It was under a folder called Frames and Watercolors. Frames and Watercolors. So I went into Designs, went in the folder Frames and Watercolors, and this is where I found that background image because there's just 2 parts of creating this, and it was on the 2nd page. And there we have it right there. So there is my background image, and I did make it a favorite so I could go back and find it easily. The wording was already created, and the wording was actually found under, and it might surprise you, it's found under elements. Most of us would think of something like text or under designs. It's actually under elements, and in elements, there's a folder called quotes and sayings, and it was in quotes and sayings where I found that particular one. And that was for the text portion. There it is right there. So that's where I found them. They were just in the system, and I just kept adding everything to the screen. Okay. Additional questions? I missed. And one thing I like about doing these things here is when I have all this trash, you can just throw it on the floor. I don't have anybody tell me I can't do it. So that makes it kind of fun. You know, men like that kind of stuff. You know, just throw the trash on the floor. Your wife's not here to make you clean it up. It's pretty good. Later, the boss might come in and say, clean it up. That's a little different. Okay. But anyway, that always makes it fun. Can you reuse the blowout sheet? No, we recommend that you don't. By the way, There it is, it did fall on the floor. And I know that it looks pretty clean, and I have reused it on occasion, but just look at it closely before you do, okay? Because if there's any sign of ink on here, then that ink itself, as it heats up, is probably going to leave a small little image on your heat press heating area, and we don't want that to happen. So I wouldn't do that. Another question that I get a lot, and well, I just balled it up and threw it on the floor, but let me just pick it back up, is people will look at, the sheet that we use for sublimation and say, wow, there's a lot of ink left on there. Can I use that again? No. It looks like there's a lot of ink in there. There's actually not. So there's not enough to reuse it. So definitely our printed sheets, we only use one time. The blowout sheet, if it's paper, I typically change it every single time. A lot of people will use Teflon sheets that come with some heat presses, and you can use that Teflon sheet until it looks dirty or until it has any kind of ink buildup on it, then get rid of it. Some people think it's supposed to last forever. It does not. The paper, by the way, the paper I'm using right here for my blowout sheet, I'll hold it up. This is exactly what I used. We just sold our house and moved to wrap 10,000 dishes, okay? But this is that moving paper that you can buy from U-Haul or whatever, but U-Haul's expensive. You can buy this stuff online. It's like 0.0001 cents a sheet or something crazy like that. So think of paper for wrapping things up for shipping, butcher paper, newsprint. This is officially blank newsprint. And you can buy those in big quantities for really, really cheap. Okay, and that's important because if we're going to throw it away every time that we've used it, that's money in the trash, right? So, but it's not very much money. Better than having to replace a product. For example, if that stray ink got onto the heat press and then I put a mug in here, is it possible the stray ink to get into that mug itself? It is possible the next go around. So we want to make sure that we keep the heat clean. Can use a dollar store mug, not unless it has a polymer coating. Now, the mugs I'm using came from Michaels. They're carrying mugs with the polymer coating. So I will tell you, you have to, if you're going to do direct sub, okay, direct sub, which means the ink went straight into the surface, you will need to have a polymer coated mug. Now, your system, if you bought it from Michaels, okay, came with what we call EasySubli Ink. Okay, EasySubli Ink combined with EasySubli Vinyl would let you put an image onto a dollar store mug. Okay, because you're actually going to sublimate the vinyl, and then you're putting the vinyl on with heat, and then it doesn't care if it's polymer-based mug or not. It's going to stick. Okay. And that's the EasySubli paper that we're referring to. Vinyl, excuse me, vinyl. Oh, that's regular paper. It must be like Wednesday, right? All right. So anyway, Alex is trying to coach me and I'm getting all off track. But anyway, while I was saying in the box here, this is important to understand. He brought up a very good point. You want to make sure, let's just go back on it again one more time. When you bought your system, it came with EasySubli Ink and EasySubli Vinyl, okay? So if you use sheets of vinyl in your printer and print to them, then you trim it with your whatever cutter you have. A lot of you have a Silhouette, some of you may have Cricut or whatnot, but you're going to trim that vinyl down to the edges, and then you're going to put that on with heat. That will stick to anything pretty much, okay? If we want to direct sub right into the surface of something like this mug, okay, then you're going to use the same ink, nothing changes, but the paper changes. Then you're using the TruePix sublimation paper that we carry and that Michaels carries, and that will allow you to do direct sublimation onto things with a polymer coating. And Michaels does carry some different products, especially the mugs that you can do that with. Sorry, did that all come out right now? Take something like that made it confusing, but anyway, hopefully I made that clear. So Kelly, do you have any information on the mug press?
I'll pull up a link right now. Thanks, Jimmy.
Someone is saying they're looking for the heat press and they couldn't find it in the Michaels store. But I have been assured that Michaels is carrying this small heat press. All right, any other questions? Well, Kelly, maybe I'm going to turn it back over to you. I think that we've gotten our questions here, the ones I was able to answer.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jimmy. Thanks everyone for joining today. We hope to see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.